Do you feel behind in life? Like everybody around you is passing you by and making more progress than you? Last year, I probably like you felt really behind. I would see all these people online talk about how much they worked and how much they got done and how hard of a worker they were. And it felt like every other day there was another child entrepreneur who was light years ahead of me, but literally years behind me. In all honesty, I was insecure about how much I worked. I was trying to be on self-improvement, but I wasn't able to put in the work like everybody was telling me I had to. But one day, everything that I'd been reading about and listening to podcasts about and watching videos about kind of all hit me at once. An idea and then a concept formed in my head about how I could take advantage of the literal biochemistry in my brain so as to be able to force myself to focus, to force my brain to give me energy. And it worked. After pulling from books and podcasts and mentors in my life, I have a better understanding of how the brain works. And now in my back pocket, I have these techniques and these mindsets that I'm gonna share with you in this video that can literally command focus from your brain. Learning all of this has helped me to grow my channel and excel in my job, etc. But most importantly, it's helped me feel proud at the end of the day. I can look back on my day and feel actual love and gratitude for myself because everything that I needed to get done got done. That brings peace of mind. I went from being insecure about my work ethic and how many hours I worked a day to implementing these techniques and this concept in my life. And now I can work longer hours for longer periods of time. And when I lose focus, I can quickly regain it back. I'm going to share with you exactly how to hack your brain like this. But what I need from you is a commitment. I need you to commit to watching the entire video through. The core concepts and principles that I am about to share with you are the key to focusing at will and for longer periods of time. Although the hack and the technique that I'm about to share with you will work for you no matter whether you understand it or not, the real value you're gonna get from this video is when you fundamentally understand what's at play in your brain here. The first time I learned how to literally hack my brain was a little bit ago. It was a Thursday and I was really behind on one of my videos. The video had to go up on Saturday and I had filmed it, but I had got almost nothing done in terms of editing. So my plan was I was gonna go to school and then come home and then just edit the entire night. I was just gonna bang out the editing. I'm like doing hand motions under the camera. I wish I had a wider lens. For a while, this plan of banging out the editing worked pretty well. I edited for a couple hours, but a little after hour 2, I started to have this crazy brain fog. I started making more mistakes in my editing. Whenever I ran into a problem, it was taking me longer to figure out how to fix it. But most notably, I was literally dozing in and out while I was editing. Periodically, I started just like falling asleep. And I would jolt awake and remember how much I had to do, but I was so deeply tired and unmotivated. I thought about how I could solve this and remembered that I had this bag of my favorite dark chocolate on top of my desk. My thought process was that if I just had a little bit of that incredible, delicious dark chocolate, that it would give me a little boost of energy and I could just ride that wave. But then I remembered what I've been learning. Recently, just before this particular Thursday, I had just enrolled in an online course about how to level up my mind and my focus. And that's also kind of what I just generally spent my time like reading books on and watching videos on and listening to podcasts on. And so as I was reaching for the chocolate, literally right here, like in time, my hand stopped and I realized what I was about to do was actually going to sabotage my focus. You've probably heard the word dopamine thrown around a lot. You probably know a little bit about it because it's kind of become a buzzword. Probably been told it's the pleasure molecule. See, in my opinion, that is either an overly simplistic or lazy way to explain dopamine. And so instead of doing what every other self-improvement creator does and telling you the terms and the names of stuff, but not explaining to you why and the core principles behind them, I'm going to tell you what's actually at play here when it comes to dopamine. Dopamine isn't the pleasure molecule. It's more accurately defined as the motivation molecule. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that is basically your will to do something. It is motivation itself. So much so that you literally can't physically move if you don't have dopamine. Dopamine is also the molecule for physical movement. So dopamine isn't really the thing that you feel when you lick the ice cream, but it's more the thing you feel when it's 95 degrees out and you're holding this ice cream that's dripping around the edges of the cone and your mouth is dry, the sun is beaming down, and you think about how good that first lick is going to be, that's when dopamine is just gushing out of your brain. And dopamine is what's going to give you the motivation to move the cone from way over here to your mouth. To illustrate the power of dopamine, my friend Kenny uses this example. There was a study done that involved 2 rats. One of the rats was the control group. It had nothing different about it. But one of the rats had this stuff on it that enabled the researchers to inhibit the rat's dopamine. Firstly, right as you would expect, when the researchers put a block of cheese right up to each of the mouse, the control mouse and the dopamine depleted mouse ate the cheese as normal. But then the researchers did this experiment again, but they moved the cheese just one rat's body's length distance away, so the distance of the rat itself. And then something different happened. The mouse with the normal levels of dopamine just walked over and ate the cheese. But the dopamine depleted mouse was so unmotivated to move that it would literally sit there and starve to death. The cheese, which is just one body's length distance away, was too much for it. It didn't have the motivation to live. It would literally starve to death instead of walking forward to eat the cheese because it had low dopamine. So you can see how important dopamine is, but there is a key element to dopamine, and this is really the huge part of the discussion. This is where you can trick your brain into working for you rather than working against you. Your brain essentially works on this scale. On one side of the scale is pleasure, motivation, dopamine, and on the other side of the scale is pain. We're gonna clip this so I can talk with my hands, dude. And so, like a normal scale, if you overload yourself with dopamine and stimulation, to reach homeostasis, to reach balance, your brain will rebound you with pain. That's why after scrolling for hours, once you turn off your phone, you don't feel good after, because you just rapidly spammed the dopamine button, and to reach homeostasis, your brain rebounds you pain, that emptiness, that lack of purpose and motivation. After spamming the dopamine button, you basically made yourself that dopamine depleted rat. However, this scale also works in reverse. If you push on the pain side, your brain will rebound you with dopamine and motivation. This was the key that I was missing. In a minute, I'm gonna explain how this is the system that we're gonna use to hack our focus. And so the reason my hand paused halfway to the bag of these delectable chocolates, like do this whenever I talk about them, was because I remembered in that moment that dopamine works on a scale. I realized that if I chose to intentionally push the stimulation button, my brain wasn't just going to magically serve up motivation, but instead, to balance out, it was going to give me that unmotivated feeling. So alternatively, I decided I was going to do something mentally painful or challenging. I chose to get up and just go set a timer for 5 minutes. And I meditated. Obviously, I wasn't super thrilled about this idea of going to meditate for 5 minutes because I was already tired and unmotivated and I didn't really want to do anything. But after I did so, when I came back to my desk, I can't emphasize how weird this was for me, but I was fully recharged. It almost felt like cheating. I had just spent 5 minutes pressing the pain button, and like magic, my brain gave me energy, it gave me motivation. I literally felt so good sitting back down that I edited for the rest of the night, and I did end up finishing the video. This is the key to controlling your brain and not having your brain imprison you. One important thing to note, though, is that the task that you're going to do that is mentally painful or challenging has to be harder or worse than the task you're avoiding. So in this instance, meditating had to be harder in that moment for me than editing. But this is something that all other self-improvement creators kind of just presuppose. They emphasize this mantra of just do the work and push through, especially when you don't feel like it. But that's not the end of the story. You can't get consistent in something if every time you do it for the rest of your life, there's friction, it's a battle. You can't fight a battle every day for the rest of your life and expect to always win. Now, I'm not discounting willpower and discipline at all. I think willpower is crucial, it's vital, and it is a skill at that, so it can be developed. But the idea that you have to feel unmotivated when you go to work for the rest of your life is stupid. To exhaustively go over this system of dopamine is beyond the scope of this video, but dopamine is the neurotransmitter that if you develop habits in your life around hacking your brain like this, you can control your focus. What I've been showing you so far is just a particular hack and technique technique that I actually genuinely use, but this technique was a representation of a deeper concept. That concept being how dopamine and motivation work. And this concept is also the key to getting out of any rut. I used to do karate, and my instructor would talk about this cycle: inspiration, motivation, action. He talked about how everyone usually believed that they had to wait for inspiration, and then they would be motivated, and then they would take action. But as obvious as this is gonna sound after I say it, he said that you can start in that cycle anywhere you want. Waiting to feel like doing the work is gonna leave you where it left me, feeling discouraged that everyone else was passing me by in the race of life. I felt like doing nothing, would do nothing, and then would be discouraged with where I'm at in life. The only way to reliably get out of ruts is to take action, which sounds so obvious and irritating to people who are in a rut. Oh, wow, Noah, thanks so much. You're saying the only way to get out of a rut is to get out of a rut. The whole point is I don't have the motivation to do something. That is literally the point, though. You must delay gratification by doing something challenging. If you do something challenging and painful, your brain will automatically and forcibly motivate you. Progress is the biggest motivator. And so that's why when you wake up and you have a really productive morning, you feel motivated and excited to be productive the rest of the day. You did what was hard in the moment, but your brain counteracted that pain with energy. This is also why if you have a really difficult conversation, afterwards you feel like you can take on the world. A good reframe for this, though, is that anytime you are in a rut, now you know exactly what needs to happen to get out, and you can see a rut as an opportunity, as cliche as that sounds. There's no greenery at the top of the mountain, and the forest is most fertile in the valleys. You now know how your brain works, and you can leverage this when you feel unmotivated. You can shape your life around it. This concept can become your go-to when you feel unmotivated or you're struggling to focus. I actually do the 5-minute meditation thing time to time nowadays. I still do that. It's a neat little trick, especially when I have a lot to get done in one day. It's also why I go to the gym and clean my room, then make a list of my priorities and start knocking off whatever I can whenever I feel like I'm in a rut. My first response to a rut is to figure out how to get a little bit of progress going as soon as possible. I know that I just have to push through that first painful task, which is the reframe that makes it an opportunity, because once I do push through that task, my brain will serve me a treat dessert of motivation and dopamine. If this video brought you value, but you want more of an exhaustive guide on how to start making progress in your life consistently and noticeably, click on this video. I think it's probably one of my most valuable videos yet. I hope this video brought you value. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.